What does a working day look like for a 62-year-old street coffee seller in Vietnam? After working for 11 hours, how much money does he make? And why did he choose this job? Hi everyone, I'm Tuan. Today, let's follow a 62-year-old man who has been selling coffee on the streets from his motorbike for the past 14 years. The room he rents is deep in a small alley on the outskirts of Hanoi. He chose to live here to save money. This is our main character. He lives in a small rented room that costs about $30 a month. The room is only around 15 square meters.
Đâu không chú?
Hả?
Hôm sau hôm sửa thay dầu nó còn trục trặc gì nữa không?
Không, hết rồi. Rồi nhân viên nhiều. Bây giờ vừa rồi tôi vào thì đấy là nhân viên nhiều.
Chỉ có cái quán phở xưa đối diện cái thằng ở chỗ có phải 789 không?
Còn đấy là đợt này người công an nó chưa ấy. Nó chưa bây giờ làm sao mà đuổi giờ kiếm được đồng hà cho con á.
Thế cả.
He has had diabetes for 5 years, and he is preparing his medication for lunch. Most of this medication is provided free of charge.
Ông nội cháu đây 78 55.
Cơ mà cái khí nó khỏe. Gì nữa?
Dạ.
Có mẹ vợ.
Thế là chú không ăn sáng gì à?
Thì đi đường gặp.
A neighbor stops by to buy the first cup of coffee of the day. He is a regular customer and almost always gives him his first sale. He makes 3 cups of coffee, one for the neighbor, one for me, and one for himself. It is not the fancy kind of coffee you would find in a nice cafe, but it has a clear bitterness from the coffee beans, a thick richness from the condensed milk, and a special aroma from the coffee. His day on the road begins.
Cà phê đây. Ai cà phê nào? Cà phê đây. Ai cà phê nào?
The first customer was a loyal customer who bought one bottle of pure coffee every morning.
Ai cà phê nào? Ai cà phê nào? Ai cà phê nào?
We walked through the traditional market. It was very crowded with vehicles and people. Police were always present, passing by and reminding vendors on the street to move. In Hanoi, the authorities are cracking down on street vending, so vendors like him have to move quickly. For the coffee vendor, he has to constantly move, or he'll be reminded. The third customer was a breakfast vendor. Her stall sold rice noodles, sticky rice cakes, and various other pastries. She bought a cup of coffee with salted milk. This is a favorite drink, mostly among women when drinking coffee. After selling the coffee, he bought his lunch. A sticky rice cake costing $15,000, about 56 cents. His lunch was simple and economical. He often stops to water the motorbike to cool down the engine. He takes meticulous care of it, like an old friend. This motorbike has been his companion for 14 years, selling coffee on the streets. He doesn't ride continuously. He travels short distances, then stops to rest, observe, and wait for regular customers or anyone who suddenly wants to buy a cup of coffee. This job seems easy and comfortable, but in reality, it requires a lot of experience. He has to know where to stop at the right time, which areas have customers, and how to conserve energy for the long day ahead. Something unexpected happened. The motorbike broke down. He had to push it into a small alley to reach a mechanic he knew well. Even so, what caught my attention was that he didn't get angry. He stayed very calm as he pushed the bulky motorbike to the repair shop he often goes to. Maybe after 14 years on the streets, he has learned to accept problems like this as part of the job.
Ngon luôn.
After a while, the motorbike was fixed,
Quay về thì phải chú ý. Quay chú ý không chú ý này không được.
and he continued his journey. He stops at a modern apartment complex with lots of trees to rest and eat a piece of bánh day. That costs 15,000 dong. He talks cheerfully and shares stories about his life. He says that he used to work as a construction worker, but as he got older, joint and bone problems made it impossible for him to continue such heavy work. Then one day, while drinking coffee at a cafe, he felt that the coffee didn't taste good. Since he himself loved coffee, he thought, I can make it better. And that was how he started selling coffee on the streets. When asked what makes him happiest about this job, money is not the first thing he mentions. He talks about the children. He says his happiest moments are when little kids greet him, call him over, and get excited to buy the drinks he sells. For him, selling on the streets has another meaning. It gives him the feeling of being remembered, being welcomed, and becoming a small part of the lives of the people who buy from him. And perhaps these small moments are what have kept him doing this job for the past 14 years. He says that even if someone offered him a job with a higher salary, he would still choose his current work. Not because this job is easy, and not because it pays well, but because he loves the freedom. He doesn't want to go back to a job controlled by fixed hours, rules, and the feeling of living under someone else's management. There is one thing he said that I will always remember.
Bảo cà phê của tôi là
Once you
hạt
get
nguyên chất,
used
đa
to a
số.
free life,
Chứ
no
không
one
có
wants to go
loại cà
back
phê dồn.
into a cage.
Còn có những loại người là
For
chân
him,
người cứt nợ nái,
freedom is the most valuable thing
chửi cho vậy.
he wants to have.
Mai. Là cái cà phê dồn là gì? Bảo hút mà.
3 young customers came by and bought coffee from him, so I stopped our conversation.
Cũng làm hơi hết rồi lại ra bắt bạn.
After finishing his work, he lay down on the tiled ground
Nằm ở đây
around a
chứ
tree
nằm
trunk
võng ở
to
chỗ
rest.
kia.
There was no bed,
Chân tay thoải
no
mái.
restroom, no air conditioning. Just the shade of the tree, the tiled ground,
Cũng ở trong đấy
his cart beside
sinh
him,
nhiều.
and a short time for his body to rest.
Đi
He
hết,
slept soundly.
không còn nhiều như trước nữa.
Watching that scene,
Không,
I realized something.
làm cái đi.
Street workers have an incredible ability to adapt. They turn any shady spot into a resting place. They turn difficulties into minor issues. In the afternoon, he continues roaming through the busy streets of Hanoi. At around 6 p.m., he returns home. That day, he sold about 20 cups of coffee. After deducting costs, he earned around 240,000 dong, about $9, for nearly 11 hours of work. If you only look at the numbers, this is a hard job with low income. That amount is just enough to cover rent, food, medicine, and leave only a very small amount to save. But after spending a day with him, what I remember most is not the money he earned. It is the way this 62-year-old man still looks at life with optimism. His life is not perfect, but he has found his own way to live with those imperfections through freedom, joy, and a love for life. And perhaps that is the most memorable thing about this street coffee seller.